All right. Good morning, everyone. It says I'm Selena Galanis, which I am not. However,
I think you can rename yourself.
I can rename myself. Well, that's too much multitasking while I'm working. Oh, yeah, there I am. I can rename myself. There you go. I've renamed myself to Casey. So I want to welcome everyone to the Builders Call. We're getting started a couple minutes behind schedule today. However, really excited for our call. We do this call the first and third weeks of the month on Tuesdays, 9 a.m. Pacific. And this call is for anyone really that wants to learn and plug into a larger conversation about building a skill set and improving your ability to influence people, build, grow, scale an organization within EXP, and to be somebody that develops a professional skill set around that. So today we have somebody on that I'm excited to interview. And just, as we jump in, let me see if I can kill the chimes. The chimes, are you guys all hearing the chimes? Yes, chimes are deadly. Things auto set to chimes. Let's see. Not breakout rooms, not reactions. Does anybody know where to disable chimes at?
Yeah, I think I can do it. Participants.
I'm gonna have to make you the host probably to do that.
Or make me a co-host. Co-host.
Yeah, you can change it back to me when you leave. Okay. Good morning, Richard. Good morning, Travis. Good morning, John. Welcome. We are running our own technical show. Selena is away at a leadership training this week. And so she's not with us and left to our own devices. Well, you can see how that's going. So we're going to jump in and keep moving. All right. So the purpose of this call, as we mentioned, is for anyone that wants to learn a skill set around building, recruiting at a higher level to be able to scale an organization. I was having a conversation over the last couple of days with somebody that hired me to coach them. And we were talking about this idea of influence and how to influence people and how to influence the way that people think. And really at the end of the day, if I said to you, 80-20 to 16,000, that might give you information. However, I don't know that it's really going to influence the way that you think. However, if I said to you, is your objective just to work harder and harder every year and have less and less of a quality of life and do that all the way up until your, late years when you pass? That might seem offensive, right? To some people, but it'd be like, what are you talking about? However, just by asking that question, now I've gotten you to think in a different way. And when I've stopped the whatever your mind is running on and have the ability to influence you to think in a different way, now we can have a conversation about something different from a perspective that you might hold on it that is just the way that you already see things. We all have things in life that we naturally see a certain way based on our experiences, what we expose ourselves to, our mindset, the books we read, the things we watch, the people that we're around, and what we engage with. And so really, when you look at what we do within EXP, we have the ability to influence people to think a different way about their life, about their business and their future. And that is about having a conversation. I was listening to somebody this morning that I have a lot of respect for, and she did this, 3-minute little YouTube clip on, are you able to produce results when your butt's on the line or only when it's convenient? So anybody can produce results when it's convenient or when it's just happening naturally and organically and effortlessly. However, if it's about paying your mortgage or keeping a roof over your head, or she was speaking like in a different career and you have to produce X number of sales for that $100,000 bonus, are you able to produce results when something's on the line or only when it's convenient? And really talking about this idea that people that are successful at anything that they do are willing to do the things that people that are unsuccessful are not. And they're willing to do them at times when people that are unsuccessful are not willing to do them. And so I wanted to start off the conversation this day kind of just in that train of thought. As always, on any of these calls, we want to make them interactive. And if there's specific items that you want to make sure that you walk away with out of today's conversation, please put them in the chat below so that we can make sure to build them into the conversation that we're going to have today as we as we jump into today's interview. So our topic for today is radical recruiting with Rick. And what you might not be able to see, and you don't need to see the details of it in the background. However, I want you to look over what's his right shoulder that looks to be our left as we're looking at the screen. Can everyone see that? Okay. And now, Rick, I'd like you to pan just so that we can see now the walls and the sticky notes that you have surrounded yourself with in your environment, because we're going to have a conversation about this today as we jump in. So here's the first question that I want, before I introduce Rick and really jump into the questions that I have for him today. Here's what I want you to start to ask yourself is, what does your environment look like? I'm assuming you're all on this call because you want to build, recruit, grow, scale an organization. What does your environment look like that you're in every day to do that? And he's going to clean his camera. Thank you. Oh, you look so pretty. What does your environment look like every day as you're doing that? And here's the power of environment, right? Our environment is something that's communicating and influencing us, even in the absence of us focusing on it. And I'm going to say that again. Our environment is something that's communicating to us and influencing us, even in the absence of us focusing on it. So Rick has a workstation where he's at right now, and he does Zoom calls and conversations a good portion of the day on all kinds of different things, real estate related. Some are training, some are with clients, some are recruiting calls. Yet regardless of what he's doing in the space that he's working, he has things that are in his environment that are constantly influencing him, sometimes consciously as he looks at them, and for sure subconsciously because he's sitting surrounded by them. So Rick, will you give a quick spin of the walls? Yeah. We don't need to see anything like really super up close and personal. However, I want everybody to just check in and see the environment that you're sitting in, check into the environments that they're sitting in, and ask yourself, what's similar, what's different. And as you start to look at the personal environment that you're sitting in, how is the environment you're sitting in set up to influence you to create the outcomes that you're wanting to create in your business? So as he takes a spin, what you're going to see is, go ahead and just spin so we can see the walls.
Okay. Yeah. So this is the window right here. And then there's more there. And then there's that wall. And then there's that wall. And I just lowered my desk because I have a stand-up desk. I lowered it so that you guys could see that wall because when I lift my desk, it kind of hides some of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So as we jump in, who does not know Rick? Everybody knows Rick. Okay. I don't need to do a formal introduction. Husband extraordinaire, Sean Connery, Jesus Christ of real estate, 43 years in the industry, runs the top producing sales team in the Bay Area, previous master faculty and coach for Keller Williams, now master coach with Workman Success Systems. He's got it going on. And his most fun wife on the planet. I mean, there's so many things we could say about this guy. However, what we're going to focus in on today is we're going to pick his brain a little bit. So for those of you that know me, know him, know us, you guys know we're very different, right? I am very much about system structure, duplication, and having things go a certain way. And that for me, I get energized by. And Rick is not that at all. Rick is like, people, connection, color, mayhem, like organic creation happening all the time. And that's how he thrives, right? So we have very different ways of working, yet there's some things that are commonalities, and that is how we pay attention to the people and the relationships. So on this topic of radical recruiting, we're going to jump in and we're going to talk about some things today that may be different and that are definitely going to push you right up against what you're probably comfortable with in your ways of working. And we want to open it up also to a larger conversation if there's things that you want to contribute to that as well. So Rick, we're going to start off with every year you pick a word. And, you'll see this in January. A lot of people are making New Year's resolutions. They're like, oh, my word for the year is, and it's fun. It's like, this is going to be my word. Everybody's picking a word. That seems like a cool word. How many of you guys picked a word for the year? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Okay. So there's a difference between picking a word and picking a context. So picking a context is different from picking a word, in that a context is something that is your guiding light, your guiding force. I think of it like, you know, for those of you that bake or know someone that baked or have seen anyone bake, when you pour flour into the sifter and then it's got the little handle on the side and you grab it and it sifts the flour and it comes through that. A context word for the year is like a sifter, that as you have a very clear context for the year, every decision that you make, every action that you're going to take, it runs through that sifter or that word of, is this serving that context? So Rick, what is the word that you chose for this year?
Prioritize.
Prioritize. And in that, you know, that can mean different things to different people. What did it mean specifically to you and why did you choose it?
Well, because I'm not blaming it on my behavioral style or anything. Just last year, 2022, I was all over the board between my real estate business, my recruiting, even things as important as my relationship with my wife, the time I spent with my kids, things like that. It was everywhere. It was not organized. It was not structured. It was more, you ever heard this saying where people go squirrel? So it was more of a reaction or a distraction rather than what needed to be taken care of. And there were devastating effects on my life and my business as a result of that. So this word came out of a lot of conversation between Casey and I about our words towards the end of the year, but certainly as a result of the lack of results that came out of 2022. So, and that word really took on some real meaning for me in a big way, especially in mid-January. And it's changed everything. And Selena and Casey, if you guys don't know Selena, she's our coach and our business partner, but they were pushing for more organization with me. And I really wanted to grab the organization. Let me turn that off. And at the same time, I knew that if I spent too much time doing organization, I couldn't be as productive or as go forward as I am. So sitting here at my desk, number one, Casey talked about environment. So that became important. This is the third desk sitting here this year in year 2023, but this is the final desk. It's a raise up and down desk. I had
Hold on.
Yeah.
You veered off my question. I'm going to reel you back in.
Okay,
so
this is why I prioritize. That's why.
Yeah. This is okay. This is how we work together, and it's not rude to interrupt someone because we're having a dialogue and a conversation. So he'll be jumping in and jumping in back. So for those of you that are just joining the call, we're talking about radical recruiting. We've talked about the power of environment and specifically the power of choosing a context that's going to be your decision-making filter that goes through the year. So Rick, in 2022, you described that your context word prioritize for the year 2023 came out of your experience in 2022. And you indicated something about not liking results or being happy with results. But I mean, let's be honest, your real estate sales team did close to 70 million, which is not an undesirable result. There was business travel, there was travel for pleasure, there was, my son's going to give me my first grandchild. I mean, there was a lot of things going on in 2022. There was, growth of over 100 agents a month into the EXP organization. And there was some other things that were happening as well, which we're not going to go into all those things. However, the experience of 22, what was your experience in your body such that it caused you to get really clear that prioritize was going to be your guiding light and thing for 2023?
The experience of my body was exactly that. It was all over the board. There was nothing I could put my finger on. Yeah, I liked how much money we made. I liked that we did some trips, but there was nothing felt like it was clicking. Nothing felt like I was on top of anything. Everything felt like it was a reaction instead of a proaction. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So why we're talking about this and the environment, as I'm asking everyone to check into the environment with where you're currently working right now, is the environment that you have currently aligned with what you actually want to create? Right. And for those of you that are just jumping on the call, what you missed, and maybe you could give it a quick spin one more time so people can see the walls behind you, is that that piece of paper that's got colored names on it on the slider behind him and the one below that gets remade every month as we recap and refocus. And then those sticky notes that are going around the different walls that you can see there are actual names of people that are somewhere in the recruiting process conversation, and they're organized specifically. And I don't know, how many sticky notes would you say you have up there?
I just cleaned up some and added some, and I'm at about 83 sticky notes. I counted just before this call.
Okay, so a quick question for everyone that I'm asking you to check in with is, do you know the number of people that you're actively in conversation with as it relates to recruiting right now? Do you have them forefront energetically in your space where they are in front of your face, in front of your body, literally, even if you're in a conversation for your real estate sales business? Right? I mean, the majority of people that are on this call or that will jump on this call are doing both things. They're selling real estate and they're working to use their influence to build and grow and scale an organization. So if success leaves clues and we start to look at what some of these clues are, check your environment right now. I mean, Rick cannot look anywhere where he does not see the names and relationships of people that he's in conversation with about their life, their business, their future. And at any given moment in time, everyone's in a different place as it relates to ready, not ready, of where they're at in their process or moving through some process. However, a lot of people will go, well, what are my follow-up systems when I'm recruiting? Can I just throw someone on a drip campaign so they keep getting touched by me? Well, you can for sure. I'm not going to say, Rick always says, everything works and nothing doesn't work, or whatever that saying is. I probably
everything works, nothing doesn't. Yeah,
everything works, nothing doesn't. It's always better to have the person who said the actual thing do the quote than someone else come along and slaughter it. However, think about that. Rick's follow-up is right in front of his face every day, by individual, by person, right? So we have we have multiple events, we have always calls going on, different things that whenever he's in conversation with one of those people, based on where they're at, he can pivot into and invite them into that conversation. Richard, you put something in the chat that you have 6 stages prior to signing them personally. How many do you have? Not saying they have to go through all of them, but the goal is to continue to keep moving them up and through them. Rick, do you want to answer that?
I don't know that I've ever counted a stage. I just like to upgrade on every stage. I'd love to learn from you, Richard. I just my initial thing is to typically, if I don't know them, have a 5 to 7 minute conversation. If I get some interest, then we set up the next follow-up. For the follow-up, I invite them to a 45-minute Zoom. Okay. And we watch the model explain together, and then I answer questions after that. And then the next step after that, and sometimes I might have my wife come on as a 3-way or somebody else, but a lot of times I can handle it myself. And then we start to what we call upgrade to what are the next things. The higher the producer, the bigger the name, the more upgrades we need before we get them to that extent. I have a whole list right here, Richard. The left row is all people who said, I am coming. And they never did. And
they haven't yet.
Yeah. But these are people that I'm in when you're on the A+ list, that says A+ above it. Boy, you're getting text messages from me almost every day if you're on the A+ list. But man, if I can't get you to answer my phone call or get on a Zoom, I have a lady in Reno that's with Compass, and she was so fed up with the cost. That was literally 8 months ago. And 4 different times in that 8 months, she was ready to flip. And on the day that the minute that we had set up to get on a Zoom, we're going to do it together. I'm literally going to personally onboard her, which I don't usually do, because she's a huge producer. She just flakes. So what do? She still reaches out once in a while, says apologies every 2 or 3 months, but I'm not letting go of her. I'm never going to stop recruiting her. But man, talk about number of touches. So there's all kinds of different levels. So I'm not sure if that answered your question. But I'd love to hear your 6 steps. So.
Yeah. So I used to do exactly what you do. Like my whole freaking wall was sticky notes, and then I put them all into Follow Boss, which I exclusively use for recruiting now because I have a different CRM for my own leads. But essentially, like there's the lead stage. There's the there's the model explain stage. There's the met with Leo stage. There's the met with higher third party validation stage. So like meet with Rick or Casey or Brent. And then there's the sent app stage. And then there's the sign stage. So like, just like you, I have a few people who are like, yeah, I'm coming. And I don't know, they just didn't come yet, but they're still under the set app stage, right? And it's interesting because I have different prices under, so like everyone has $2,800 minimum on what they're probably going to contribute. Some of them are like $10,000 or $100,000 based off their influence. And I just have them marked as different like price points. But I like that 5 to 7 minute convo. I think that I need to add that in between my lead and then the model explain stage. So to see who I've actually had that conversation with versus they're just kind of a lead. I'd be curious to hear that 5 to 7 minute conversation, what those questions look like and what it sounds like that's what we're going to go into today.
Well, and I don't, Casey, Selena, and I use Trello, and Trello is very effective for us. But since Trello needs to be updated once a week, I meet with Selena and we put all of my follow-up into Trello. Sometimes it's twice a week, depending, so that I can continue to move at a very fast pace and not think about anything but my sticky notes and the notes I take here on my desk. And then like last night, Casey asked me to give her an update. And I did it in a way that it was not effective. I just basically voice texted into my phone all the updates on people. And she goes, no, I meant for you to itemize them, not put them by voice. So anyway, the point is that the reason this works for me is I am constantly, literally all the way up until 9:30, 10 p.m. last night, texting, calling, setting up appointments, and putting them into my face-to-face appointments, Zoom appointments into my calendar. And I can work so well from here, standing up and moving at this fast pace. So.
And are you doing the 2-10-40 like Brent, or is that like the same goal? Like I want to set at least 2 appointments every day, or no?
I don't really count that way. I just look at my calendar, and as long as it's not, today I have 1, 2, 3, 4 appointments that are recruiting related, not real estate related, not real estate sales related, 4 of them in my day. And those are all 4 of those were booked yesterday, every single one of them.
Beautiful.
So there's no way that all I want to do is look at my calendar and see that it's completely filled. And if there's blank spots, that's where I do more recruiting, add more names to my sticky list, or follow up on old names on the sticky list. So that's why I said ramp and out of box. I'll give you an idea. I made a cold call and the lady said she was interested in talking by text, not by voice. So I kept texting her, what's a good time? What's a good time? She wasn't answering. I went onto her Facebook. I saw that she had a picture of Joe Dispenza's book, Dr. Joe Dispenza. Casey and I are big followers of Dr. Joe. She was holding it on her Facebook page as a cover, as a picture. I text her that. I go, oh my God, I can't believe I saw your Facebook page. Still no answers, 7 texts in a row. As soon as I mentioned Joe Dispenza, she's answering. Right? That's why I said rampant out-of-box recruiting, because I am going nuts. I will do anything to get people's attention. I had Russian girls. They wouldn't respond. I go into my Google Translate. I set up this whole nice message in English, and I had it translate to Russian. I send it to them. I get a response immediately. This isn't like there's answers to this. I'm just not willing to stop until I've tried everything. So that's the point for me. I just want to connect with everybody. And I no longer believe that personality or age or production level matters. I can talk to anybody because I have a product that can help everybody. So,
yep.
Hey, Rick, I like what you just said. You said, about Doesn't matter about age or production level or this. You just said the word connect, and that's what it's about, trying to connect with people. I got worried when I saw the sticky notes. I thought they were to-do lists from Casey for what you needed to do around the house. So I'm glad that's not the case. I have Elizabeth and I work off of a spreadsheet. I like my Excel spreadsheets, but what I'm realizing as I'm seeing your sticky notes is it's not really in my environment unless I go into my laptop and open it up. And it does get buried for a few days. And I go, oh, I got to open that spreadsheet and see what I'm doing.
Ask Casey how many spreadsheets that my former assistant prepared for me. They're all over.
That he never looked at, that he never put any information in, but do something with color and he's all over it, right?
Yeah,
so we discovered that just a few years back, which is why everything has color, because he'll engage with it. Whereas me, I'm like, I look at it and I'm like,
I have to have colorful, different colors to put on my sticky notes. That's why I bought all these. And then look at all the different colored sticky notes. I have fun with this, right? All different colored sticky notes. So
and I've been toying with the idea of going and incorporating Trello, but it's the same concept. Like it's not in front of me unless I open it up.
Sticky notes are always in front of you, and you can always put everything in Trello or your spreadsheet later.
Yeah. Or you can use a whiteboard and have different colors. I mean, they make those big whiteboards that you can just have on your, like they take up a whole wall. Those are great too. Like just find something that works for you. And Richard, when you were talking about there being, 6 steps that someone goes through, I think about recruiting like making out. Just stay with me for a minute here.
Wait, what?
I think about recruiting like making out. And I said, just stick with me for a minute here. So for the people that weren't listening or multitasking,
I heard you.
What did this call move to? But think about it. There's not like, there is something that happens in that process where it's give and take, it's back and forth. It's not like you do this, then you do this, then you do this, then you do this. Because you're engaging with another person, and depending on who that is, it's going to be a different experience each time, right? You will bring you to that experience. However, the person on the other end of that experience is going to be different. So how you engage and interact with them becomes something that you create in that process. So, and people aren't like steps or systems. Right. So what I had up on the screen before, which I'll go ahead and reshare, is more of just a framework to know at any moment in time, this is what we're doing with people, is that we're using our personal story to influence people or connect or open up conversations. We're doing that strategically or randomly, right? So strategically would be like Rick's very strategic. He knows those names. They're up on sticky notes around him. The invitation in that 5 to 7 minute conversation is really an invitation to a conversation, because if you present during an invite, you're generally going to get resistance or somebody just wanting to know enough information to say no and move on. And then the actual due diligence exposure process, and then however many follow-up calls, experiences, events, whatever it takes, until somebody gets to that point where what they've seen and the vision that they have aligns with their timing, where they're actually going to take action, right? So that is, and it's fluid. However, if at any moment in time, like everyone is in that kind of process somewhere, it really comes down to like, are they ready? Or are they not ready? Are they ready right now? Or are they not ready right now? Right. So, when I'm sitting in front of someone that's like, oh yeah, this looks great, this looks amazing, my next question to them is there any reason you wouldn't be willing to, or you don't want to start that process today? Versus, yeah, I'm ready. Okay, let's talk tomorrow. Tomorrow, like the world could have moved by tomorrow and they're in a totally different place. So when, it's like, think about yourself as a buyer of anything or a consumer of anything. And, oh, would you like dessert? Yeah, I would like dessert. And then, an hour goes by, the conversation's still going, you haven't had dessert, and you're like, yeah, don't worry about it. Take it off the bill, right? Because in the time that you wanted it, you would have had it. And so this is a really big thing about when people saying they're ready, is moving them into a next step immediately that's demonstration of that readiness. And that may be, what is that next step? Great, we're on Zoom. We'll jump on Zoom and we'll start the process, which means we're going to get your ICA filled out. I'm going to be with you so that happens. accurately. There's a couple of things that we'll, talk about on that process. You're not with EXP till you move your license. However, this is the next step. And then we'll get you into the event, the event that's coming up, or join us coming to the event. So a lot of times when people are ready, if you don't have them take action on the ready, they will cycle through weeks or months of then being on a sticker on a wall where something happened to them and we don't know what. And it's just a matter of, are you a diligent person and follow up and staying in communication until that magical moment of time of window opens, readiness, and the action aligns with it. So, Rick, will you speak specifically to, we're 5 weeks out from Build now, the Build conference. I sent, some of you are on a text message group, some of you weren't. We were having a conversation on this call, I think 2 calls ago, about someone that couldn't afford to go to the event, which I always say is not true. That's just a mindset of scarcity, right? Like if anyone says, oh, I can't afford it, or business is slow, or I don't have the money right now, or, blah, 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 all those things. It's like, okay, well, let's see if that's actually true or not. If you have a kid and the kid goes into the ER and you've got 24 hours to come up with $2,500 and they live or they don't, based on your ability to go get $2,500, are you going to work that out? Yeah, you will, because that's your kid and that's your kid's life on the line. But how much more often are people less serious or less casual about their business and their future, to where it's never about money or being able to afford to go, or business is this or business is that. It is, how do they have their future at that level of priority in their mindset? And is there someone like you or me willing to come along and have a conversation to help them see that truth, right? And that can be a confrontive conversation, like, take the kid out of it. And maybe it's, you wake up today and you've got a listing appointment and all 4 of your tires got slashed. Well, that's the price of an event ticket. You're just not going to replace your tires because business has been slow. No, you're going to figure it out. You're going to get your tires replaced because you need to get to that listing appointment. Well, the event that with Build is like air and water to your body and soul as it relates to your business and your future. Right. And the people that attend that event and invest in themselves and their life and their business and their future are going to come out the other end of those 3 days much differently than the people that aren't at that event, because as a result of what will happen there. So, Rick, this topic of like recruiting and being radical in nature and doing things out of the box and looking at things differently to create a different result. Will you talk about specifically, kind of what your, how you've been working with this conversation?
Yeah. So first, Casey and I have got a lot going on in our personal lives. I became a grandfather. My 37-year-old son suddenly wants to get into real estate. So there's a lot of distractions, but everything I'm doing is to be focused. That's why I'm in this home in the East Bay. Casey's at our other home in the South Bay, is focused on getting people to come to Build. And so I started thinking the other day, Casey and I went to lunch with one of our recruits in a town about 15 minutes from here. And as we drove down the main street, I saw 4 independent brokerages. I wrote their names down. I'm calling every single one of those brokerages, because what brokerage owner wouldn't want to go to an industry event where they talk about how to recruit more agents to your brokerage? Right? I do not announce this as an EXP event. I say it is an event put on by an EXP agent, but it is not an EXP event. And there's a good chance that up to 50% of the people there will not be with EXP. So I can present it any way I want, but I've got a whole one of these lists right here that says brokerage has 7 brokerages that run from 2 agents all the way up to 100 agents, where I'm just going to reach out cold to the other broker and say, hi, my name is Rick Geha. I know we don't know each other. I used to own 9 Keller Williams franchises that had 1,000 agents. I'm still involved in recruiting, and I was driving through your town and saw your company, and I'd love to have a chat with you about if there's any chance that you'd be interested in growing your company. I want to share an event with you where you can learn all about agent attraction, like something like that. I don't even know what will come out of my mouth, but I know that it'll be a lot better than not calling. Does that make sense? So, okay. And the other thing that I told Casey, that I've never been more on fire about recruiting than I am. And I mean, never. And the month of May was my 30th anniversary of taking a job as a manager of a real estate office, where the owner the 6 owners, but I had one particular boss, and that boss name was Gino Blafari, who today is the CEO of all of Berkshire Hathaway. He was my personal boss, my personal report. And he said, hey, Rick, recruiting is all about retention and training. The more you retain and train, the more you recruit. So I got really busy doing that. Okay. And it helped me more than I can tell. But I look back 30 years and I've never been more on fire than I am right now. Like I drive by billboards and I'm like, oh gosh, I wonder if I should write their name down. Then I think, no, don't write their name down. You got plenty of other names that you know better than you know that person on their billboard, on that billboard. But man, a brokerage is different. So that's why I told Casey today that we got to talk about rampant out of the box recruiting. Just crazy stuff. Just do everything you can to talk to as many people as you can. Have shorter conversations with more people. When I was going with Casey to her network marketing things, they always said, say less to more people. So.
And how many of you know that for people that are not with EXP that attend Build, there's a way for them to get a ticket at 50% off what the regular price of admission is? Everybody knows that? Okay, and do you know how to do that? So when you go to checkout on that ticket, and so I think this is, you know, it's really incredible that they're making it easy for people that are not with the EXP to be able to get discounted tickets. However, everything's being checked to verify and validate that that's a real person with a real company that is not with the EXP, so that it's not abused, right? And when you understand what putting on an event looks like the Build event was committed to a year ago, it is literally millions of dollars to put that event on. And what pays for the event is the people that attend the event and the tickets, right? So for the lowest level of tickets, they're already in the hole 50%, because it's $697 is the break-even cost per person on, you know, they committed to a room size and a number of people for that event. It's not like, oh, we'll see how many and then decide on the room. No, they're committed on the space and committed on the cost. So this offering of being able to have someone that's not with the EXP at a 50% discount off the ticket price to make it friendlier for them to get to the event is something that's an incredible opportunity that they've never done before. So there's a code on the last page of registration that you can enter. It's build 2350, build 2350. Which stands for build 23, obviously at 50% off. So build 2350 is the code to enter at registration for somebody that is not with EXP that will be attending the event and get 50% off whatever the ticket price is on the ticket that they're purchasing. So I'll go ahead and put that in this chat here. Any questions? Comments? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. Rick, by the way, thanks for that little blurb on the independent brokerages, because I've got some that I'm interested in talking to, you know, some with 5 agents, some with 40 agents, and I've been trying to figure out the best way to invite them to Build, and you just solved that problem for me, so thank you.
John.
Question for you. I know you and Casey are, I don't know, like you guys are over 3,000 agents, maybe approaching 4,000 by now. You're crushing it with your real estate team. What's driving you? What is still driving you today? Because you're saying you're more fired up than ever. You're going after it like never before. What's driving you?
First was driving me was, you know, most of you have heard my story, but I have some people say, when's enough is enough. And I don't think that you were, for me, I'm not going to say if you were like this, you'd agree with me. That's not how life works. But
hey, Google, navigate me.
So
Elizabeth, you're on.
No, she's not. I just muted her.
Yeah. So, so what I looked at is that when Brent, who I love and respect more than anything, was telling me, look, walk away from production, just do this, because of where I was from 2008 to 2011, I never wanted to let go of the team. Every at least twice a week, Casey and I talk about the team and still working with the team and where the effort goes. And I'll be honest with you, John, selling houses is what pulled me out of losing everything. So then all of a sudden my son tells me I'm going to be a grandpa. And then a few months after they find out they're pregnant, he says, I'm going to move back up after living in LA for 14 years and creating a great job for himself and his wife and him make good money. They have a home to sell real estate with me. I started looking at life differently. I thought, gosh, this team is going to play a bigger role. It's going to become something that goes to my son. And at the same time, I haven't taken full advantage of all of the things that revenue share has to offer. So I decided I wanted to do it. Babe, what did Nathan Ricks used to say that Brent Gove also said? You can go fast or you can, I think it's fast and fun, or slow and painful, I think was what really hit me. And I just said, what I want to build from here going out, we were right at $29.99 and dropped all the way down to 29 something because of the way the market is right now. So we really never hit 3,000. We were pretty close. But for me, I have some goals about what my monthly check is, and I have some goals about what I want to leave in terms of the team for my son and to build that creates more income for me. And I've had people say, well, if you're getting that much in rev share, why would you need the team? It's not about needing, it's about what I decide to do with the money. It could be charity, it could be whatever it is. But I want Casey and I to have a leisurely life when we choose it to be leisurely, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
Which, based on the way that we're geared, probably, happens for a few days out of the year. And then we're like, okay,
yeah,
we're going crazy. We're bored. Let's get back to creating. Right. And, here's the truth. I'll jump in on that, John, is that walking the path with somebody like you guys showed up on this call today. So in an organization of 3,000 agents, and let's say based on company numbers, there's 300 of them that are building, you guys are on the call. And so are we, right? Because we are energized to match energy with energy for people who do want to continue to grow, to build, to expand, and to, influence. And then, of course, have all of, the benefits and blessings that go along with that. However, think about it. Like, there is nothing, when somebody says, when's enough? Well, if you look anywhere in nature or you look anywhere in life, when body activity and brain activity slows, people die. Animals die, right? And so when we look at the context of our life and living, it's experience after experience, chapter after chapter, and that is in a constant evolution, right? So if you're here on the call today and you may be like, I'm looking at Will right now, and Will may be saying, okay, I want 50 grand a month in revenue share and building an organization that consistently is producing that or more. And then, I change X, Y, and Z about my life. Okay, that's great. And then when that happens, Will's vision is going to upgrade into something entirely different, because now he's at that spot and it's going to become the next iteration. And if he doesn't do that, what's going to happen is it's going to collapse and go backwards. Because what's true in life and business everywhere is that people, things, business are constantly in a state of growth and expansion, or in a state of collapse and decay. And in between growth and expansion and collapse and decay, there's this like little fine line where it looks like things are just maintaining, which is not true at all. When things have flatlined, it's an early sign that decay or compression is on the way. And so, like, literally, we know that from all of the work that we've done in personal and professional development, that we're at any moment in time either growing or dying. And so is the business, right? And so when we look at our business specifically, real estate, the industry specifically, whether that's buying and selling homes, or that is recruiting agents, attracting agents, and building and nurturing and growing an organization, the energy that we get up and invest every day into those places or not is going to be an indication of if we're growing or dying internally. And then it's only a matter of time until our outside environment is going to reflect that growing or dying, expansion or compression that's going to be happening as well. And so we're very intentional. It's like, it's not an enough is enough conversation. It's what's the next iteration. And what will happen for a lot of people, and you may even see this with some people within EXP, is they hit, when people get whatever the vision is or the dream was, and they stop doing all of the things that led them to the creation of that, personal decay often happens on the other side of that, whether it's like, I'm not taking care of myself as well because I'm not performing like an athlete in my life and my business, and so my personal habits go sideways, or and you can see the decay of a human easily when that starts to happen, right? So that's the blessing about what we have is, oh yeah, when you get the money piece handled and you have a passive stream of income that is creating the life that you want, it becomes even more challenging to stay in a state of growth, because now you don't have to, right? When you have to, it's like, well, got to keep, got to pay the mortgage, got to keep the lights on, roof over the head. And so there is that drive, that survival drive. But when somebody moves out of survival into something that's a lot more comfortable than that, it becomes even harder than being in survival, because now there's a different level of internal motivation required to continue to move forward. And that's where the evolving of what your vision is, what's next for you, the next layer, the next chapter, right? So 2022, there was no sticky notes up on those walls. But for Rick's iteration and his context for the year of prioritize, there's sticky notes up on the walls. That came out of that iteration of growth and being very intentional about it. So, as we're kind of bringing this call, wrapping it up and, closing the loop on it, check in on where we started this conversation. What's in your environment? Who are the names and relationships? Are they on a spreadsheet somewhere that you only see when you open your computer? Or do you have a whiteboard up or different colored sticky notes that have those relationships, so that at all times you're not forgetting about people or not knowing where they're at in the process? Like, it is a relationship, right? It's something that's important, and it's something that's getting your attention, whether that's a focused attention because you're reaching out and having conversations with those relationships, or it's because it's in your environment and it's influencing you subconsciously because it's in your space. So check in on your environment. Are you clear on your, intention? Do you have a clear context that's guiding you for this year based on the things that are important to you? Like Rick's word around prioritize. Number 3, being radical in what you're doing, right? Conversations, those conversations looking different, putting yourself out there in different ways, doing things that you've maybe never done before in the context of connecting or grabbing someone's attention. And then urgency, right? When someone tells me or goes into a story about why they can't or why not, I'm in a position of either sympathizing with them and buying into their story, or taking a stand for them in their life and their future and not buying their story. I'm going to say that again. I'm sitting in front of someone and they're giving me a story about why not, or why they can't, or why they're not going to be able to make it to build, or what's not happening in their business, and so they're skipping the event. I can sit there and go, oh, I understand that you're doing 50% of the business you were doing last year. Okay, well, maybe next year, let's plan it for next year. Or I can be that person that's like, really? Like, that's not true at all. And someone will, people will get defensive about wanting to defend the smallness and the mediocrity that they're currently in when they don't want to move out of it. But if you don't accept that as truth, then it changes the energy of that conversation. Like, if I was to say to Rick, oh, you're not able to, can't, don't want to, won't, aren't planning on that. Why? Okay, well, I'm pretty sure, and it's financially rated, I'm pretty sure, Rick, that if one of your kids was in the hospital, it was up to you to come up with $25 in the next 24 hours, and they live or they die based on your ability to go get resourceful and come up with $2,500, are they living or dying on your watch? Of course you would find the $2,500. So go find it for your future of your business and your life and get to build, right? This is about priorities. Like, are you willing to be that confrontive with someone and have that conversation and really take a stand for them, right? There's not a lot of people that will do that. We are blessed to have people and each other that will do that for each other, because we're constantly not looking at where we're at right now. Like, when we look at where we're at right now, believe it or not, it could be pretty depressing for me and for Rick, right? And we're not going to go into all the reasons about why that is. And you may look from the outside and go, how is that even possible? But we're never looking at where we're at right now. We are constantly looking at where we're going. And then we're asking ourselves the question, what is the behaviors and the actions that are aligned with where we are going, with where we are committed to going? And regardless of how inconvenient that may be in the moment, financially or from a time perspective, if that's what's aligned with where we want to go, then we make it happen. Right. And that's what leaders of self do. And that's where people will create success in business and in life. So in our last couple of minutes, is there any thoughts, comments, shares, questions, anything else that you guys have that you'd like to contribute or ask today during our time?
First off, thank you so much for, everything that you shared today. Very, very good stuff. The biggest takeaway I'm going to do is the brokerage, because that's one of my missions, is to convert a brokerage so I don't have to pay for a brokerage in Vegas. So that's my mission. I had a question about, okay, so what is maybe you have a recording. So what does the 5-minute conversation look like to get them to sit down and watch the model explain together? Like, what does that look like?
That varies based on how we came across each other, but it's basically like, well, I think, I've been in real estate for over 43 years, but let's not talk about me. I'd love to hear about your story. How long have you been in real estate? What did you do before that? How are you enjoying the career you've chosen at this point in your career? Things like that, just kind of get them talking. And you'd be surprised how many people get stuck. Like, I like to listen to what they get stuck on when they're answering. Casey's been a big influence in my life in listening and not interrupting, like really being interested, not interesting. So I listen now for energy words. What keeps them stuck? Where do they keep repeating? And I go, oh, I get it now. So you've been selling real estate for 4 years. May I ask, which I'd already asked, what were you doing before real estate? And then what prompted you? I was talking to, who was I talking to the other day? I forget who it was. I wish I could remember. Oh, it was Tom Costello. I was like asking, well, Rick, when you talk to people, do you ask them what prompted you to get into real estate? And I can remember asking somebody that came into one of my offices when I was running a Century 21 back in 1995. And they said, oh, I go to a lot of open houses, so I know I'll be good at real estate. I wanted to say, what? How does that, your ability to go to open houses on the weekend, make you going to be a great, so the whole idea is what got you into it. Like, it's a really deep, what Casey used to call, what did we call it? A feel, fact, find, or what? How did we?
Fact, find.
Fact, feel, find. Yeah.
So in that 5 to 7 minutes, Richard, what Rick's saying is it's about getting a little of their story and using his story to position to a larger conversation, right? So if I'm in a quick conversation with Rick, hey, I'm calling you about business, but first, how are you doing? And how long you been in the industry now? Oh my God, 43 years. What are you loving about it? You're still in it. You must love it. What are you loving about it? And, what are the 3 things that you're working to create more, better, or different in your business this year? That's going to indicate breakdowns of things that they may have. Oh, the market shifting. We're looking at expenses. Like, you're going to see an in there. Remind me where you're at or where you're working, and why you're there. Like, what's the benefit and the value you're getting? What's the best part about being there, right? And so in that conversation, now you have the opportunity to take that same framework and, share the story, right? So Rick could flip that exact same thing and share part of his story is that, yeah, I've been in the business for 43 years. I'm more excited and energized and enthused about it than I ever have been because of some specific things that are available to agents that have never been available to agents to thrive in this market at this time.
Yeah.
We should be open to having a conversation to jump into those more and see how, what that could look like for your business and your future. Yeah, that's the 5 to 7 minutes. It's not an EXP conversation. It's their story, your story. Use that to get the time set up. And then into the model explained as a byproduct of creating the value of actually going through, like, this isn't about recruiting you to another brokerage. That's not this conversation. It's about educating you about what's available for you in your business and what that could look like as you lay different models and platforms over your existing business and the impact that could have. So we'll go through it together. You watch for things that are going to stick out as interesting or important to you, or that you want to understand at a deeper level. And then we'll have a conversation just, at the end of that about what that could look like. And, maybe there's something that you see for you, maybe they're not. That's okay. You're going to leave here more educated about what's available to agents in our industry on the other side of this conversation. So it is something that, like, I know all of that just came like blah, 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 because of how many times I've said it. I don't think about it, but the framework is the same. In that 5 to 7 minutes, I know like I've got to understand a little bit about who they are and their story and where they're at and where they want to go, and get that in a very quick, we don't need to sit down for an hour to have that conversation. I can get that in 3 to 4 minutes. Right. And that is the skill. And then how do I share mine in 1 to 2 minutes to get them to give me a larger quantity of time where we can actually have a conversation? And that is the invitation process. Like, that you've done an invitation if you get an appointment set on the other side of it. Your invite was effective. If there's not an appointment set up to give you more time on the other side, there's work to do on your invitation to make it more compelling or more urgent or more important for them to give you that time, right? But there's no presentation in the invitation. The invite is to get the appointment set up. And so those quick, small asks on time, like a small ask on time, if you call me and want an hour of my time, is, you are not going to get it anytime soon, more than likely. But if you want 5 minutes or less, I got 5 minutes for anybody. Yeah. Right. And so that's the more of those conversations to start things off that you're having in that invite stage of things. Rick has 4 appointments today. Why? They were all created out of conversations that came yesterday. Why? Because he was having multiple conversations that were short. He was saying less to more people. And in that shortness, there's an energy and a compelling, oh, yeah, how about tomorrow? Right. And so now he's got 4 recruiting appointments set up for today. And that is think of it just like real estate sales. You're filling the funnel of those, like people are going to come out wherever they're going to come out. But what we have control over and influence over is how many of those conversations we're in each day and the dialogue that goes with them.
Yeah. And I want to I got another Zoom, but real quick, for all of you, awareness, just hype up your awareness and keep working on your awareness. I was calling an agent about a listing, nothing to do with recruiting. I knew the listing. I didn't know who the agent was. Found the agent. I know her. Used to be at my KW office. I said, "You're not at KW anymore," while I was talking to her. And then literally to call her and talk about the listing ended up into a lunch recruiting appointment this Thursday. Only because I'm more aware. I'm always thinking about recruiting before I think about my real estate sales business. So please, if you really want to make this serious, I'm not saying don't. I'm always an and guy. I'm going to sell a ton of houses and I'm going to recruit a bunch of people. If you're thinking or, that's scarcity thinking. So I'm all over this right now. So
that was that combo yesterday, Rick.
That's right, baby. That's right. Okay, honey, I got to jump. So
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you all.